Hello. In our Parashat Vayera, we read of the very difficult story in which Abraham, according to Sarah's will and Hashem's order, sends Hagar and Ishmael off to the desert. And they lose their way and wander, and their water finishes, and Ishmael becomes very, very thirsty, and he is in danger of death. And Hagar takes Ishmael and puts him under a bush and sits away. And there she starts crying. Vatisait kolah vativk. And surprisingly, the Torah tells us that God hears the voice of Ishmael. Vayishma Elokim et kol hana'ar. But we didn't even know that Ishmael was crying. We didn't know that Ishmael was praying. The only voice we had heard about was Hagar's voice, that she raised her voice and cried. And then we listen to what the angel tells Hagar, and he tells her, Kumi, se'i et hanar, v'achaziki et yadech bo. You shall rise, get up, lift your son, and hold his hand. And it seems as if the Torah is being critical of Hagar's behavior. Yes, Hagar, this is a very difficult time, very challenging to be a mother who sees her son in a danger of death. What do you do at this moment? And Hagar is a bit self-centered. Instead of saying, this is very difficult for me as a mother to see my son dying, but this is difficult for my son that this is his last moments, what should I do as a mother? I should be there with him. I should hold his hand. I should give him a hug. I should be there with him and pray together with him. Instead, Hagar is focused on herself, on her own suffering, on her own despair, and she just sits away from him. Al ir'e b'mot yaled. I don't want to see the boy dying. And that is why the angel turns to Hagar and tells her, no, the opposite. Get up and sit next to him. And then, yes, I will save him. But first, and that is why the angel and Hashem doesn't listen to Hagar's cry, but rather listens to Ishmael's cry. They're trying to tell Hagar the egocentric cry is a problem. And this, I think, is something major for us to learn from this parasha. That when we have difficulties and when we are in problematic times, and many times this leads us to be self-centered, to look at ourselves, to see why we are suffering, why we have a problem, why others need to help me. And this parasha tells us to look around and see who can I help at this time of pain, at this time of suffering, in many different challenges that we have, not to concentrate on my own problems, but rather to see how at this difficult time I can look around and help others. Doesn't mean to deny the fact that I have trouble, but to see in my trouble and in my pain how I can turn this into something with meaning, in which I look around and help someone else to deal with this trouble. And together we will overcome. Only when Hagar and Ishmael come together, when they see each other, then Kilegoy Gadol Asimenu. Then that is when he says, yes, I will save him and I will help him and Ishmael will flourish. I hope, I pray for ourselves, for every one of us to learn from this idea and to be able always to look around and see in the good times and in times that are more difficult who we can help and reach out to in order to stand together and to face together as a community, as a nation, as a family, to face the challenges together, and that way to overcome. Shabbat Shalom.